Okay. And now we are focusing on research design and methods. Okay. Now, research design is extremely important for providing proof that our research is important. What is research design? That it explains the entire research, that what is it that we are doing. It's a glue that holds the research together. It is now empirical part. Okay. Now theoretical part is over. We are moving towards empirical part. So in empirical part, we have to focus largely on research design. There are three types of research design: experimental, quasi-experimental, and non-experimental. Most of us in management research uses non-experimental design. These are correlational design. Okay. So what is correlational design? That cross-sectional data that we collect on X variable, Y variable, Z variable from respondent, from different respondent, or these are called correlational design. In correlational design, we cannot claim causal relationships. We can only claim relational relationships. We cannot say X causes Y. If you gather data from your employees on job satisfaction, and you collect data on organization's performance, and you find correlation between them, you run regression and you find significant influence, beta value, okay, coefficient value, that doesn't mean it's causal impact. All it means is that these are correlated. It may not be causally related. So we have to be careful while making knowledge claims about it. Okay. So what is required in order for us to make causal claim? We have to ensure that we establish temporal precedence, we establish cause and effect, and we establish this particularly, that there is no alternative explanation, which is not possible. Okay. So in management research, mostly we use correlational research or non-experimental research, which does not allow us to claim causal benefits. Only experimental research can allow you to claim causal impact. So we'll not discuss all the types of research here. Okay. I just wanted to kind of bring to your notice that I often hear researcher claim that X causes Y. No, X doesn't cause Y. That's not you prove. In hypothesis, you only prove X is related to Y. That's all you prove. Okay. There is also an important element of time in research. Now, what is element of time in research? That it depends on where you are gathering the data. Longitudinally, if you look at this curve, you may find that there is a negative relationship between X and Y. But if you only look at the data between 2 points, one is at the bottom, the other one is rising up. So you are collecting data at a particular point in time. The relationship may look completely opposite, positive. Okay. So here you may go wrong in this direction. So ensure that you do not claim causality based on your research if it's not a causal research. There are different threats as well. Now I am saying this from a reviewer point. Where does reviewer is going to find faults with your research? Reviewer, even when he or she believes that your introduction is good, that means your need for study is very good, your literature review theory is nice, literature review hypothesis good, but then hypotheses are not adequately tested. Now, there could be several reasons why I would not have faith in your finding. Why should I trust your finding? My biggest worry is your data is poor. Why? Because you collected data in a non-random fashion. You collected data from, let's say, mall intercept, some 300, 400 customers. Is this representative? It also happens that people who are most relevant, they do not participate in your study. So for example, in a study on depression, okay, who are not likely to participate? Okay, the people who are suffering from depression,
Who are depressed, yeah.
who are likely to participate, people who are not
Depressed.
depressed, which means you are getting poor quality data itself. Your data are not reliable, not valid. So we most of the time face problem from non-response, that the real people who are poor do not participate in the study on poverty because they don't want to tell you about their poverty. The people who are better off, they participate. Social threats. Then as a reviewer, I'm worried that your data are junk because people have guessed the hypothesis and they are kind of trying to give you good desirable data. Or as a data collector yourself, you are kind of influencing the process of data collection. History, your data is collected at a point where things are anyway moving in wrong directions, and hence your data collection is poor. Instrumentation, that people get bored of your instrument and Likert type questions. So there are 150 Likert questions on agree to disagree. So people randomly give yes, 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 agree, 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 agree. So those kind of bad responses. Omitted variable, then you run regressions, and I'm worried that you have shown job satisfaction and performance, but then performance depends on 5 different things. Why have you not included them in your research as control variables? So omitted variables causes relationship to exist when it doesn't actually. So as a reviewer, I would look at what are the other alternative explanations of this relationship. If you have not control for it, why should I believe your finding? So omitted variables that you have not included in your study. If they are important, they must be there. Then measurement error. Your measurement is poor. Your score of, let's say, satisfaction is poor. Okay, so that measurement error. Model is misspecified. You have not controlled for endogeneity. So where something, for example, you should have used, let's say, multinomial logic model, you're using multiple regression only. Okay, so there are this kind of aspects which causes method bias, which causes problem, as a result of which you get spurious relationships. What is spurious relationship? That the relation doesn't exist, but your data shows. So if you look at the top 2 Venn diagram circles, they are far away from each other, right? They are not related. But because of the bias, wrong data, poor data, they seem interlinked and they are related. So this relationship is artifact of method, is not reality. The opposite may also happen, that things are actually related, but because of the method bias, things look separate. Now, in your research paper, in the method section, what do you write? What is the focus? The focus is on proving to the reviewer that you have taken care of all these aspects. There is no alternative explanation. You have collected appropriate data from appropriate person. There is no measurement error. You have not ignored any meaningful variables which should be part of the model. Your model is correctly specified, and hence my results should be acceptable. Okay, so this acceptability, convincing the reviewer about the acceptability of this research, is the most important thing, critical thing. Okay, so you have to defend your research from nasty reviewers. Often all of us are probably sometimes we have faced nasty reviewers ourselves. So what do they normally object? They object weak operationalization, right? That your measure is improper. For example, I'll explain in my research on innovation orientation. I told you that I captured the measure of management's innovation focus from the letter the CMD wrote to the shareholders, and what did he or she discuss in that letter, from the content of the letter. Now, someone can say that you cannot capture firm's innovation focus from that letter. If you argue, if you give me convincing argument, if you criticize that, then entire finding research results is useless. So I should be able to defend that why this operationalization is appropriate. Okay, so I have to provide evidences of validity of my measurement. So what I do, I then look at the score of innovation orientation I have derived. I also derive other scores of that firm's behavior from past literature, which says that innovation oriented firm would do ABC thing. And then I also get the data on those ABC thing and then show that this score actually is related to this ABC thing that existing literature says innovation oriented firms should do. Then I show them that, see, my score is valid because it behaves as per the past research theoretical expectation. So hence this score is valid. So I'm giving this kind of predictive validity to my measurement. So I have to provide this proof. This demand for proof increases as you focus on top tier journals. Source validity. Someone say that this data, this is not right person to give you this data. So you have to justify, no, why this is the right person. Okay, most of the time in early career, our data comes from our students, our data comes from mall intercepts, younger people. And then the question is that, no, this younger generation who hangs out in the mall, they are the ones who kind of fill up the question. They are not right people to really test this hypothesis. Okay. Method analysis. So your methods are also criticized. That is not appropriate method. Mostly we know of one simple multiple regression. Now that's not an ideal method, because when can you use regression, multiple regression or OLS? When you know you can establish that it meets certain conditions. Okay, so you have multivariate normality assumptions met. You then show that the independent variables are not correlated. There is no correlation between error and independent variables. So you have to ensure that these assumptions are met and the residuals are normally distributed across the mean of 0. Now, the moment there is a violation of any of this, you have to change the method which is appropriate to the violation of OLS and use a special version of regression, right? Either IVSLS, 2SLS, or multinomial. Yes, sometimes your measurement is also, for example, ordered categorical measurement is taken and you use OLS, which is meant for continuous variables, in which case you should use multinomial logic regression. So the propriety of method to the character and nature of data is important. So that's something reviewer will look at, that whether your data, the character of data and the method are appropriate, whether you have controlled for method bias or not. Robustness checks. Even after you have analyzed and got the results, you have to think that in what different ways my results can be wrong, and then think of methods and ways in which you would test for this possibilities and show that, no, even with this argument, my results are appropriate. This is called robustness checks. Now, the importance of robustness check is increasing day by day. So you got to focus on providing robustness checks. So overall, you have to defend your thesis or your research for appropriate source, appropriate data, appropriate way of collecting data, and appropriate analytical method. Okay. Robustness checks. Yes, I'll explain robustness checks. Always provide descriptive stats, correlation, mean, and standard deviation. What is the importance of this? Is that if you give me your correlation, mean, and standard deviation, I can replicate your analysis, whether your analysis is correct or not. I don't need your entire data set. So this is required because the later studies, later meta-analytic studies. Remember, I told you in the beginning types of research, and one of the type of research is meta-analytic studies. So what they do, they extract this information from published research, and then they merge it, and then they run their own data. So that means their database would be sum of all the sample size which is published in the existing research. So they have a research sample which is in thousands. Okay, so this is something you have to always provide for replication of your analysis. Reliability, validity information, analyze from various angles, triangulate the findings, okay, through different methods. So these are some of the important, and yes, and run sensitivity analysis for robustness check. Okay, so I will explain what does it mean, but normally what happens is that we write abstract, which is very, very impressive. Introduction again is good, but then when it comes to results analysis, okay, it's poor. It doesn't just match up to the hype that we build or the contribution that we claim. Okay, so always ensure that the other part is also equally impactful here. Okay, now I have similar this analysis part, whatever I said about a propriety of robustness check and method and variable to explain from again 2 of my research. But before that, I think in the interest of time, I'll also cover a couple of more points about conclusion and discussion. Okay, now what do you write in conclusion? This is the last aspect. So in conclusion, you first present the brief description of your findings or recapitulate the study. That is a small part of your introduction, that why you did the study, what is the importance of the study in the first paragraph. Okay, what were your aims, what did you find, brief summary of results, what did you find in the analysis. Okay, and then focus on comparing this results. Now how does it stand against the existing results in the previous literature, whether they conform, they support the existing arguments, or they deviate from the existing argument, which studies support, which studies don't support there, and why. So it's not merely demonstrating it supports and doesn't support. You have to focus on argumentation. For example, in one of my research papers, I had 5 hypotheses. 4 of them came true, were supported. 1 was not supported. And that finding, that hypothesis is expected, it's derived from the theory, so it was expected that it must be supported. And in fact, in other countries, we have found that this hypothesis in a different form, in a different context, is supported actually. Now, I had a tough time, or my job was to explain in the discussion, conclusion discussion section, that why this hypothesis was not supported. So my discussion was around this, that if firm, for example, X and Y is expected to be related, why it was not related, what was so specific in the Indian context or the context in which I collected data, what must have happened that led to this. Now this discussion here also produced new hypotheses or new arguments which requires future research. Okay, so in most of the other studies, they have found that non-profits, NGOs which are market oriented, which are donor oriented, for example, okay, particular hypothesis I'm talking about, donor oriented, they are able to get more money from donors. But in India, I found Indian cases that NGOs which are donor focused and NGOs which are not donor focused, there is no difference between the amount of money that they attract. It's virtually same. Now, why it should be? That's a challenge to the existing wisdom, right? Accepted wisdom, what theory says. Now, I had to argue in this discussion section that, okay, my other hypothesis agrees with this literature and this is supportive of this theory, but this hypothesis is not supported. And based on my interactions with the practitioners, because I took this finding to the practitioners and I asked them that what are your hypothesis? What are your conjectures? And based on this discussion, I realized that in India, donors are not independent entities who give money to certain NGOs based on their work. Here, the focus is largely on the relationship between donor agencies and the NGOs. So it is more dependent on the social network or the quality of relationship that you have rather than the donor orientation of an organization. So since this money are distributed as patronage, it depends on my relation with my counterpart in donor organization. So it happens through relationships rather than through performance. So I put this as a plausible explanation why hypothesis was not supported, which requires future research. Now, this is an important explanation that I have to provide. Otherwise, I just can't disown that my 4 hypotheses supported, 1 was not supported, I go on. Okay, that's not the end. So you have to justify then that, okay, now this is most important. After that, what is the contribution? So what this hypothesis was supported? What is the contribution now? And what is novel part in this contribution? What is novelty in this contribution? And my contribution afterwards is distributed in 2 sections. First, I have to focus on what is my theoretical contribution, and 2, what is my managerial contribution. So what do I contribute to theory? Okay, so I show that how do I enhance theoretical understanding? How do I add to the richness of the theory or to the explanatory power of the theory? And as a result, what does it mean for managers? Because managers are not interested in theory. On the basis of my research, for example, this demonetization research and resilience, what do I tell managers? What does it mean for managers? Is it just for my curiosity? Yes, it is for my curiosity, but then it has to be relevant to managers. So what do I tell them? So I have to focus on writing this theoretical and managerial implications, followed by a final part, which is limitations and future research directions. I've told you how future research directions can come. When you focus on the shortcomings of the research, you say these are future research. But most importantly, many times researchers like to hide their weaknesses. In fact, you must reveal maximum weaknesses of this research. You should not be ashamed, not try to cover up that what are the limitations of the study and why your findings should not be fully trusted. More you write about it, more confidence it gives to researcher that this person is a mature researcher. He understands or she understands the shortcomings and reveals it. So it's research is not about hiding and fooling others. Okay, research is about revealing, telling clearly, see, this is what I did, this is what I found, but this finding is not God-given truth. It may be incorrect. Why? It may be incorrect because A, B, C, D thing. Because probably that I did not have experimental design, it's correlational design. My time element could be tricky. So I don't know. My scope of the research is again limited, or generalizability of the finding is questionable. My data collection method were not perfect. What was wrong with that? My analytical method probably suffered from this. I would have liked to do this, but this was not possible. Okay, and you can focus on how future research should address this limitations. Now, when you write all these things, and that too in 8 to 10,000 words put together, including references, tables, and everything, which means it's a great deal of difficulty in ensuring that the arguments are coherent, evidences are sufficient, and flow is smooth to have your manuscript ready, but it's not ready yet for submission. because always ensure that your first draft, howsoever good it may be, it will always get rejected. What you should do, in fact, is create multiple drafts of your research. I do not know any of my paper that I submitted before I wrote at least 12 to 13 drafts. Okay, so all my papers have at least gone through 12 to 13 drafts. And what happens is that when I'm writing first cut, I complete it full. I am not self-critical. I write it full as per the flow. But then I know it's not complete, so I let it stay for a week. And then I revisit it. And then I revisit it. I realize that it is so bad. I'm able to see the weaknesses all around. I correct it. And then again, I leave it. Again for a week. And again, I revisit it. And again, I correct it. And then my co-author does the same thing. So they do the same thing. Then they throw it back. Then I again look at their corrections. And then again, I see the weaknesses in the argumentation, poor referencing or poor theoretical framework, or this analysis or conclusion section poorly written, or implications, theoretical implications not adequately argued. So I go on doing this. And it's not until 12 drafts are done when we think of taking feedback of external person, not submitting, taking feedback of friend, that what they think now, because we are done, we are not able to see more mistakes, but someone else will. So we seek friendly review, and once that's addressed, then because you not afford to lose time with your paper being under review and it getting rejected after 3 months time, and then you revise it. So it's best that you revise to the best of your capacity, to the best of your friend's capacity, and then submit your best draft ever that you can produce, so that others know that it's good, others find it good, acceptable, and whatever weaknesses they notice, they are able to give you another chance to correct those weaknesses. So it doesn't get rejected, it gets reviewed, and you are asked to address these shortcomings. So always ensure that you don't go on kind of throwing drafts at one journal to other journal. It's best that you keep all your draft with yourself for a long time, keep on working, keep on revising. That's where perseverance comes. That's where the entire glimmer from science, from research goes out. It becomes almost a donkey work. Every morning you write, you read the same paragraph, and then you realize that how silly that was. Why I did not see that the last three sentences should have been the first in the paragraph. So it's all about kind of, or the two paragraphs should have been merged, and so it all boils down to writing or art of writing. And let me tell you, whether a paper ends up in ABDC B or ABDC A, the only difference is quality of writing. And quality of writing comes from your perseverance, your willingness to revise your own writing continuously to the extent that it feels ridiculous sometimes. But that's what makes difference. If you have published in B, I can assure you, with more polishing of the writing, it could have ended up in A. Okay. But it's most of the time, it's our ego, it's our problem that kind of stops us from revising, or looking at our own mistakes. Everyone thinks that their paper is the best. I mean, nothing else can be done or can be added or taken out from it. Whereas if you look at it from someone else's eyes, how would it look? Let me show you. Okay, this is a structure of the paper, hourglass structure that I've discussed. I'll discuss this maybe later. This is how I think my paper looks. Okay, and how does reviewer think my paper looks? Okay, and this is kind of bias, right? Egocentrism or bias, those overconfidence in self. So this is a normal kind of a phenomenon. It always happens that you are more optimistic about your own paper than your friends are or others are, and hence, please take review from others. Please share your draft with others for comments so that you are able to improve and enhance it. Okay, any question, anyone?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you for this nice session, sir. Sir, when I decided to go for PhD 3 years back, in my mind, I have decided what topic I will choose when I will start my PhD. So the topic has been decided. So when I start and I research, I found there on this same topic, there are a lot of research already made.
Yeah, yes.
So in that case, but that is very interesting point that this is my favorite topic. I need to do my research on that topic only, and I choose the same topic.
Yeah.
So right now I'm confused that should I go for that topic or should I change the topic?
No, don't go for something which is already done. Never ever do that, and because it's not going to pay off. Okay, it becomes probably easy if your guide is okay with it, quite lenient. Then you complete the PhD, but then you don't get the return on your PhD, right? You see probably the people who publish more earn more, people who publish more have higher reputation as well, people who publish travel the world. So all the benefits of academics are closely tied to your publication. Now, which means that whether you want to just complete the degree, that is PhD, or you want to become researcher, which is not a degree. Okay, so which gets reflected in the quality of work that you do, which is recognized worldwide. So focus more on having more greater initial pain that gives you more gain at a later stage. So try to do research that is not easy, that is not done. So you have to merely kind of read and replicate it directly verbatim in your context. Um, all of us in the beginning as a budding researcher. Yeah, ma'am. Yes, please. Okay. All right. So whenever we started doing research, we always thought that there is an interesting topic waiting to be discovered. I will go and pick it up, and then everyone will be so. Everyone will be zapped with these kind of discovery. So topic is not to be discovered. Okay, topic is you start getting better at identifying research topics as you read more. So what requires is greater understanding. It's almost like when I was a school going kid and I was very much interested in physics, science, and then I wanted to become a scientist. And I often used to wonder that what should I discover, because everything is discovered. TV is discovered, fridge is discovered, fan is discovered, AC is discovered, washing machine is discovered. What should I discover now? So it basically means that I don't know my field. There is so much, but no one knows, no one goes and tells you. But yes, having a good guide helps in this aspect, because now your guide, who is an active researcher, will be working on certain topics, will know that what are the new interesting topics or frontiers of research where people should focus on. He or she will be able to tell you that go and explore this idea, and hence you probably will get started, and then in the process you will develop the necessary skills to become a good researcher.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Anybody else, any other question?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you have explained about the research method, research design, and then we have to shift to the results, conclusion, and the discussion. But what about the data analysis and the results part? Where we should put that? Like after the methodology part or
So
in the conclusion discussion?
no, methodology is a big, broader term which includes all your subparts. So it includes your data collection process. It includes your variable operationalization process. It includes description of the, let's say, questionnaire that you have prepared, that where you borrowed the item from. It includes the descriptive statistics. It includes analysis, and it includes results. So when we say the entire methodology, normally nobody writes methodology and then goes on writing. So normally it's called method. And within method, you have 2-3 subsections. So you write, let's say, data collection. Then data collection, after you say that, data analysis. And within data analysis, you have descriptive and then analysis and then results. So under this 3 broader section, you can include everything and all the necessary justification as well, including method bias, that how you address method bias, how you address robustness checks. Okay, robustness check is also important, and I wanted to show you that in our paper, how we thought about various possible results being spurious, and hence we are giving the analysis from different angles as well. Okay, but before that, I think if I ask you that, how do you, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Please continue, sir.
Yeah,
I
no,
want to ask one more thing, sir.
yeah, please go ahead, tell me.
Okay, sir, you said for the robustness check, we have to do reliability, availability, sensitivity analysis. You said
Yes,
sensitivity analysis also.
yes.
So what do you mean by that, sir? Sensitivity analysis?
Sensitivity analysis is that what if my results are sensitive to certain values. So let me show you, for example,